while they are looking at a range of mixes here, nuclear was going to be an energy mix that was going to be needed. And as they are also looking, and in this region, there's a lot of work being done on how to grow the digital economy. So whether it's AI, quantum, and just
I can't believe that I'm actually agreeing with something from the Liberals, especially from Mary Ng, who is quite literally accused of Chinese foreign interference. But for Canada to actually start investing in nuclear power, nuclear energy, and in AI, because that's where the future is going, and just with all of that stuff, I think that that's actually really good for Canada. But I hate the fact that it's coming from her. Well, I'd say it's just about right on cue for a 24-hour cycle of Justin Trudeau embarrassing Canadians. He's traveled overseas for a summit conference, and he brought his daughter, and the local media mistaken the daughter for his wife, which doesn't make sense because he's divorced. But anyways, Justin Trudeau, again, on the global stage, just does not represent Canada, Canadians, or Canadian values properly, and makes an absolute fool of himself, in turn making a fool of Canada. So we're going to be taking a look at that later on in this video. We're also going to be taking a look at Khalistani separatists, which are deemed terrorist organization or terrorist people by India. They are now riding horses like downtown in different places of Canada with swords. Yep, I didn't stutter. That's absolutely what is happening. And we're going to take a look at that in probably about the middle of the video, along with a lot of other news stories happening in Canada. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. We're like super close to 430,000 subscribers, and it would mean the world to me if we got there before the end of the month. And without further ado, let's just get right into it. Starting things off with our unfortunate Canadian dollar and watching it go down the drain. So Brian Lilly from the Toronto Sun says when Trudeau won in 2015, the Canadian dollar traded at about 86 cents US. Today, it's at 71 cents. So on top of inflation making everything more expensive to buy, your dollar has a low purchasing power. Oh, and he has several taxes that increase automatically. It's great. And I feel like if Justin Trudeau remains in power for longer than, especially longer than next year, like if somehow he wins the election, which it's not looking that way, it's 99% likely that Pierre is going to not only win, but a majority government. But for some reason, if the powers that be were to, keep Justin Trudeau in power, our dollar will be worth literally half of the American dollar within the next 5 years. I'm already calling it. I mean, he's not doing Canada any service, especially when you take a look at posts like this, where Justin Trudeau is spending $10 million to teach 5,000 men in the Congo to implement nature-based solutions and adapt to climate change using gender-sensitive methods. This is actually a screenshot from the Government of Canada's website. And as you can see here, Canada needs Doge very, very desperately. And I would absolutely agree with that statement. And then you have the Toronto Star saying that next year, or in 2025, 1.2 million temporary residents must leave Canada when their status expires. But will they? And this is where the progressive Canada that just doesn't really have like the gonads to do the right thing and to protect the integrity, the sovereignty, the democracy of Canada, they don't have the balls to pull that off. We're Trump. President-elect Trump says day one, starting to deport 18 plus million Americans. A lot of those people are unfortunately going to come to Canada either through refugee status, just illegally come into this country, or they're just going to migrate legally here to Canada. But nonetheless, Canada's already expected to have a massive bump in people like early next year. And already it's starting now. People are like starting to try and legally and illegally go through the process of leaving America and coming to Canada. And I gotta say, we're full. We're absolutely full. In fact, I 100% think that if people are eligible for deportation, they should be deported. And that's not something that Canada does, unfortunately, which is crazy, because why would you reward somebody whose contract expired when the clear solution is just deport? But again, this overly progressive government doesn't see it that way. I don't understand it. Nobody does. Nobody does. And then you have Conservative MP Kyle here, who says, I had my first personal experience with a pro-Palestine constituent today. I was having coffee at my local coffee shop with friends. She screamed at me, yelled at the top of her lungs that I was a genocide supporter, and threatened to throw hot coffee in my face. I'm always happy to discuss issues with the people I have the privilege to represent. However, this is not a constructive way to engage and discuss an issue. Yeah, who would have thunk? Who would have thunk? And so just to give you an idea of how like these pro-Palestine protests have been erupting, how out of the control they've been getting, let's take a look at this recent video from a recent protest.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Trying to rip the Canadian flag out of his arms.
Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva
Which is bananas. Like, I understand it's a pro-Palestine protest, but trying to rip a Canadian flag out of somebody's arms, because for what reason? For what reason? Like, it just doesn't make any sense at all. And then since these protests have been going on, you actually have the identity of some of these people that are involved in these pro-Palestine protests actually be revealed. And so we don't have any names at all, but nonetheless, this person apparently who's masked is a Ontario certified teacher. I wonder what he teaches in chemistry class, says somebody here, the cow of Monte Cristo. And as you can see, this post has almost, 152,000 views, which is crazy. And so you got a lot of people that are obviously still masked and hiding their identities at these pro-Palestine protests to avoid facing any sort of accountability. But you can run, but you can't hide. So the most recent development, now I did talk about this in a recent video, but for those that missed it, this is, I think this is out of Montreal, or this is in Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal. So Toronto Police, Ottawa Police, take note. Oh, this is in Calgary. Pro-Hamas loyalists in Calgary attempted to block the roads, and they got arrested. There it is. Wow. Yeah, lots and lots of arrests have been taking place very, very recently with these pro-Palestine protests. But I'd love to know your guys' opinions on that. And then we're going to take a look at this interview here by Melanie Joly, who seems absolutely terrified that she's not going to have a job for very much longer. Here we go.
Yeah, of course. So if there's a country in the world that understands the U.S., it's Canada. And so that's why there's so many delegations, so many countries that are coming to see us, to ask us about the new administration, to ask us about how we and they can adapt. And so I think that Canada's influence is actually increasing because of the impacts that the world is now facing with the new administration. So we will continue to engage, and we will continue, of course, to engage with the U.S., but we will increase also our engagements across the world based on that. And last point also is, let's all remember, Canada will be hosting the G7 next year. And so we also have an important role to play as the new administration is coming, but also the world is adapting to its presence.
What was your reaction to other countries ask you, when other countries ask you about the United States, about the Trump administration, and Canada being a bit of an expert on that, what do you tell them when they ask you what's going to be the difference between the second Trump administration and the president?
I think that, of course, the existing Trump administration has a lot of experience, but which is different when they were first elected in 2016, because, of course, President Trump won and at the time had to adapt to being now a politician and president. I think that a lot of things have changed since 2016 and their 2016 to 2020. First, it was before the pandemic. Second, it was before the Ukraine war. Third, it was before the Middle East war. And fourth, China has taken clear geopolitical stance that are very different where we were. And so I think people have a tendency to think that the world was pretty much similar, which is not the case. And so based on that, I think people are able to see the trends of the future administration.
Thank you. No,
Yeah. I think that she has every right to be in full panic mode. It's not looking good for a lot of these kind of front bench liberals. Melanie Joly, who is rumored to have been and may still be Justin Trudeau's mistress. Well, I guess that doesn't apply since he's no longer in that position where someone else would have that title. I think that she's going to be out of a job. And when the Liberals inevitably fail, you're going to see a lot of these people either not even be reelected, or they're just going to say, you know what, that's it. We're going to resign and take some personal time. It's going to be insane. It's going to be insane. A lot of the front bench Liberal people that you see right now, they won't be there after the next election, because why would they? They are so hated. I mean, they think that they can pull this off, and they're going to be proven that that's actually not going to happen. Now we got to take a look at what's going on with men on horses carrying swords in Canada. So this post here is absolutely blowing up. It's been circulated by many accounts. Is Canada gone? Why did we let this happen? We need mass deportation now. Over 687,000 views at the time of this recording. Now, I do have to mute it because it does have like some music that's copyrighted, I believe. But you can see this is, from my understanding, the Khalistani separatist people that are labeled as terrorists in India for wanting to separate and then cause harm to India and India's democracy. They are on horses carrying swords. Like, there you go. There's now I've seen horses out in public, not downtown like this. Like, specifically when, you know, I used to, when I go back to Vancouver Island to visit and stuff like that, there's some beaches there that are close to, you know, farmlands. And a lot of times, if you're lucky, not a lot of times, but if you're lucky, you'll actually see horses people riding their horses on the beach, in Canada. Like, it's pretty cool, like straight out of the movies, right? But I've never seen horses downtown like this. And with people carrying swords, I get it. It's ceremonial, but yo, like, what? This is Canada. I understand that Canada is a melting pot of for some reason it's a melting pot, and we've all seemed to like just agree that this is Canada and it should maintain this status. But what? That's kind of crazy. Am I being too harsh, or does that just seem a little like overboard? Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. And speaking of overboard, Trudeau is abroad. In the last 10 days, Justin Trudeau has traveled 7,200 kilometers to and from Vancouver, 3,500 kilometers to and from Bermuda, then 7,200 kilometers to Peru, for a total of 17,000 kilometers, burning 285,000 liters of jet fuel. And his government tells Canadians traveling to the cottage will cause the planet to burn. This is because Justin Trudeau is in Peru with his daughter. So the media reporting on Trudeau arriving in Peru called his daughter his wife in this video. Let's take a look.
Nos vamos al Callao porque está bajando las escaleras ya el primer ministro de Canadá, Justin Trudeau
I don't understand.
está bajando y ahí lo tenemos en pantalla ahora. El primer ministro canadiense Justin Trudeau llegó y ya está aquí.
All right.
Está con su esposa.
So, I mean, I'm not going to play the audio anymore because we don't know what the hell they're saying. But nonetheless, the point of this is that apparently, according to translation, they call that Justin Trudeau's wife, and it's not. That's his daughter. And this isn't the first time Justin Trudeau brings his kids on a political adventure on taxpayers' dollars. He's been, for the last several months, kind of bringing his son abroad when he travels, which, I mean, it is what it is. Like, you're a family man, and maybe it's his days for custody. Who really knows? But it just feels like pandering. It feels like he knows that he's in a really horrible situation, just with all of the bad publicity, all of the hatred, and using his kids to say, hey, look, I'm a family man, you should still vote for me. That's my interpretation. Now, I could be way off. Maybe I obviously have a bias. I don't like the guy. So everything he does, I look at it through the lens of, I don't like this guy, but I try to catch myself and say, am I just hating on literally everything? Kind of. But nonetheless, it just feels kind of weird. It just feels kind of weird. You're representing our country. What? Why are you bringing your I don't know. Anyways, let's move on here. Justin Trudeau arrives Friday night at the National Palace for dinner with his daughter. There you go. There he goes. Yeah, I don't know. It feels weird, and I get it because Trump brings his son Barron, his 6'8" or 6'9" or 6'10" son Barron around, and his other children. They're around when he does political stuff. So I understand that I definitely likely sound like a hypocrite saying, why are you bringing your kids around, when Trump does the same thing, and I'm like, oh look, Trump brought his kids around. That's awesome. But when Justin Trudeau does it, it's like, what are you doing? I totally understand that I sound like a hypocrite. And to be honest, I'm allowed to feel that way because I don't like Justin Trudeau. So seeing him out in public and seeing him absolutely tank our country's reputation and bring his kids around for the ride, it just irks me. It just irks me. But I understand that I absolutely am being hypocritical. I get it. Anyways, let's take a look here at what he has to say at this summit. And is this Mary Ng? Or is that somebody else? Because if that's Mary Ng, she's being accused of ties with China for foreign interference.
What's being discussed potentially is going to turn trade governance upside down. So maybe a little bit of your perspective.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, when Donald Trump first got elected in 2016, he made a commitment.
It is Mary Ng.
To rip up one of the most successful trade deals that the world has ever seen, NAFTA, or specifically Canada-US free trade deal particularly. And that was something he was absolutely determined to do, and it would have had deep consequences, obviously on Canada, but also on the North American economy. We rolled up our sleeves and did the hard work of demonstrating that it was not just possible, but desirable to create a win-win, to update NAFTA, to update USMCA in all sorts of different ways. And the level of connectedness between the Canadian and the American economy, to be specific about that, meant that it would have been very, very difficult for the American administration to do something that would hurt the Canadian economy and hurt workers, that wouldn't also significantly hurt the American economy and American workers. So based on those truths, we looked at ways to update and adjust our trading relationship, and we did that because the fact is middle-class workers in Canada and the United States have been building things together for decades and generations to tremendous success. And basing the arguments around this is how you create jobs in both of our economies, this is how you create opportunity and prosperity there, it was hard work. I mean, yeah, it wasn't easy, and nothing's going to be easy this time. Little secret, there is no American administration that is automatically easy for a Canadian government. They take a very robust look at their own interests, and Canada adjusts. But our ability to do that and protect good jobs in Canada is what's going to be at the center of everything.
Yeah, I am extremely distracted because I'm focusing on the fact that Mary Ng, quite literally deemed as a traitor to Canada, is there in Peru representing Canada. It doesn't make any sense, but I'd love to know your thoughts down below. And she actually spoke, and we're going to take a look at that next. So here we go.
It's really terrific to be talking to you from APEC. I've been here since the beginning of the week. We started with the ministerial meetings. So Minister Joly and I were here doing the ministerial part of the work before the Leaders Summit. And you heard the Prime Minister talk about an accomplishment that we have made as part of Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy and our work with Indonesia. Very pleased that we have concluded, substantively concluded, a free trade agreement with Indonesia. Why is this important to Canadians? Well, Indonesia is the fourth largest country by population in the world, of just under 280 million people. It is dynamic, it is young. I can't count the number of times I've been to Indonesia or this region now in this work, but a really excellent accomplishment in the negotiating of that agreement. I will be in Indonesia for the first week in December with a Canada trade mission. It's going to be the largest trade mission. About 300 people will be coming with me on that trade mission. So in fact, not only have we concluded trade negotiations, but businesses are interested in coming into this region. Indeed, they will in a few weeks from now. So very proud about the work that has been done over the past number of years in this region to advance, to really put into reality parts of our Indo-Pacific strategy, particularly around trade. It is called the Canadian Gateway for Nuclear Development in the Indo-Pacific. And you might remember that when we launched the strategy, I announced that we would have a Canadian Gateway here in the Indo-Pacific. And in the course of that work, in the course of talking to and meeting with the many, many countries and economies in the region, it became really clear that as these economies and countries grew, as they grew, whether it's their manufacturing bases or their economies, they were going to consume more energy. They were going to need to consume more energy, not only just to increase their capacity in their growth, but that also means the capacity for people and their households. So as we were having these very, very important dialogues bilaterally, but also multilaterally, whether it's through ASEAN or here at the APEC, it was clear that not only did they need energy and that energy security was necessary, that it needed to be clean. And while they are looking at a range of mixes here, nuclear was going to be an energy mix that was going to be needed. And as they are also looking, and in this region, there's a lot of work being done on how to grow the digital economy. So whether it's AI, quantum, and just
I can't believe that I'm actually agreeing with something from the Liberals, especially from Mary Ng, who is quite literally accused of Chinese foreign interference. But for Canada to actually start investing in nuclear power, nuclear energy, and in AI, because that's where the future is going, and just with all of that stuff, I think that that's actually really good for Canada, but I hate the fact that it's coming from her. I really do. It really irks me.
The need for data centers that actually come up to support businesses, in order to run those, they require another real substantive amount of energy. So nuclear came up in that context, and then we just sort of connected the dots, right? Canada is a tier 1 nuclear country. We have the expertise, we have regulatory expertise, we have human capital expertise, we have the supply chain that is built in Canada. Let's not forget about CANDU that we have been selling and providing to around the world. They're of course working on the Monarch now, but also small modular reactors. We produce uranium, non-enriched uranium. Also another feature that's really attractive to many of the countries in this region. So over the last recent years, we have been working on this, and it has culminated in now the gateway for nuclear development here for the Indo-Pacific, and we're going to work with our colleague countries.
Alrighty, so I'm not suggesting that what Canada is doing with this announcement of Canada investing in nuclear power, nuclear energy, and more into AI, that's enough for the Liberals to actually pull some miraculous win. I am not by no means am I suggesting that this is now going to give them the boost that they would need to win. What I am saying is that I think a lot of people that are actually paying attention to these moves might start to think, shit, that's actually pretty good. The fact that Canada is actually now going to be investing in nuclear is good. And I'll give credit where credit is due. I hate the fact that it's the Liberals saying this. I wish that the Conservatives would be saying this, but I mean, I'll give Pierre and the Conservative Party credit. Pierre has been saying stuff similar to this. Maybe he's even said this. I just can't remember it because it's not as recent as it just happened with what Mary Ng said. But nonetheless, I think that just regardless of who is putting this forward, this is going to be good for the future of Canada. Canada's a natural refrigerator and freezer, and we have so much potential. Now, she was suggesting that we are investing in nuclear in the Indo-Pacific area, not in Canada. And I would like to see Canada have, nuclear power here. I think that because we are a natural refrigerator and freezer, we have a lot of land that could be used for, nuclear reactors, nuclear facilities, that if something catastrophic happened and it went sideways, it wouldn't, be devastating to anyone because it could just be so far out of the way and off the beaten path. But nonetheless, I don't know the logistics behind that, but I mean, we're living in almost 2025. We're talking about sending people to Mars. You got rockets that are landing themselves. You've got robots that are dogs, and cars are driving themselves. Like, there's a lot of things that are advancing the future right now. And I feel like Canada doesn't want to be left. At least I don't want Canada and our economy to be left behind. And we need to do stuff here in Canada. So instead of investing $9 million in a cricket factory that hosts 50 million crickets at any given moment to then crush them up and turn that into protein and sneak that into people's foods, we shouldn't be investing into AI, have Bitcoin mining farms way up in the Arctic, and nuclear reactors. But that's my own personal opinion. Again, I don't know the logistics behind all of that. I would just like us to see, I'd like to see us start to take these massive, kind of almost gambles on the investments into where the future is headed. Again, instead of spending $10 million to teach 5,000 people in the Congo about, gender identity and how that affects climate change, nuclear reactors in Canada. Sure. I think that we should 100% be doing stuff like that. But that's my personal opinion. I would absolutely love to know yours. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.